Okay, I am back, and I was hoping I would get a little farther on what I've been working on today. However, I think I'm gonna have to do it all over again on camera because I had some problems with my sewing machine and other problems. But anyway, what I found out yesterday was that I cannot use my standard um, my my standard neck tube that I usually use, um, because this weird neck that these puppets have, it just won't stretch enough. So I had to make some custom ones, and just about every part of this thing, I'm running out of all my supplies, so I have to restock. So I didn't have any of the duck cloth that I usually use, so I had a little denim left over um, from another project I thought I could use, and I'm gonna try and make it work, but I didn't realize that I had messed up the tension on my machine when I was trying to uh, stitch that leather the other day, and so I have to basically run the main stitch one more time on it. So hopefully I won't be sewing for very long on here. Um, but anyway, there we are. I fixed the tension. I just have to sew it up. So we'll see. So hopefully, I might actually get to. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to attach the neck tube to the Ralphie puppet, since there's no mechanism in there, and I'm going to pattern the head because the order of operations on this thing is really wonky. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to put the skin on the Ralph puppet, which is the one that has the mechanism. I'm going to have to let's see, attach the neck tube up to a point in the back of the head, then put the skin on and leave the back of the head open, and then feed the rod through the eye hole to make the eyelid, and then attach the spring. I'll attach the string in the spring when I put the rod in, and then bend the eyelid around, and then I get to seal everything up because there's no other way to get the rod in the way it is. But the good news is that the eyes will be attached to the head, and I can move on to basically finishing that puppet tomorrow, or at least the head. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. But with Ralphie, since there's no eye mechanism, I can pattern and pretty much do the whole head today. So that's my plan. And I just lost my feed. There we go. Okay, well, let's do it again. All right, I can see you guys again. The thing about this is that you hit little snags throughout every process. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small, and there's so much problem solving involved. Oh my gosh, I need Laura Baldwin here to thread my needles. So it's all about, as you do more and more puppets, you learn the different techniques that'll get you out of scrapes. I'm running a bobbin right now. If you thought some of my other videos were boring, I think this might be the newest and the most boring of them all. Threading a bobbin. Okay. I think I can switch to this camera. There we go. That's not too bad. I'll get it zoomed in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. As interesting as this all is. I was so proud of myself. I had just finished the whole thing, and then saw that the stitch was all messed up. So I'm just going to sew over it. It doesn't really matter. It's the inside liner. Nobody's going to see it. I should get some testing. I really should take a sewing class. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. And this is what was happening before, is it was tighter on the bottom than it was on the top, and so it would, as soon as I would straighten it out, it would pop. So what I did, what differentiates this from my, okay, so that was easy enough. What's different about this one as opposed to, well, actually, you know what? I gotta do one other thing. What's different about this as opposed to the one I usually use is this is the one I usually use, which has it's not as stretchy a jersey mesh, and it's also only about 3 inches. I put 6 inches on this one, and it's the much stretchier one, so that should close that gap pretty well. And this is the tube I took out of the capybara, so I should be able to reuse that. Think about how to do this. Look at all these threads. I don't recommend using denim or even this light denim. It's not very good. I have another one here that's 3/4 done, but I'm not going to make that. And yes, my window's open. So at least I got one neck tube done. Oh, I gave you quite the view there. Okay. Let me try and clean this up a little bit here. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay. Wait a second. So I put a binder clip in here to keep his mouth shut. This thing would have just unraveled if I hadn't redone those stitches just then. But since this is like a more traditional puppet where the head's just going to be, it's going to be separate from the body, I don't have to really worry about the, I don't know if you watched my other video. In my other videos, I'll usually put a second a tube of jersey mesh in there to kind of transition the seam. I shouldn't have to do that with this one. And I want to test it out before hopefully I won't stick myself. But if I stick myself, you guys all get to drink. I'm going to be gluing in a second, otherwise I would shut that window. I should probably fish off that nose right now, but I'll leave it. I'm gonna have to figure out. I'm gonna have to fish out those pins in there that are keeping the nose on. Okay, let's see if how that'll work. Okay, you can kind of see now why it was shaped this way. I wanted his neck to be formed by my hand here. Here, let me take this out. You see, that's as thin as his neck as I can make on him. But it gives me a lot of, like, this would be his body. His body would be down there. It'll give me a lot of lot of control, or whoever's going to puppeteer this thing, if anybody ever puppeteers this thing. All right, so now I'm going to slowly get my hand out of there. You know what? I'm going to take the nose off now, too. He looks so much different without the eyes. Same with when I draw him. It's like without the eye, without the eyes, or the eyes are his whole head, basically. Okay. So there we go. Okay. Moon station set up. I thought Charles Yeager was going to be on here today. Okay.
Okay, I got my mask on. Oh, and it was much easier to open today. I gotta keep this paper away from this. This is a bad idea. This video is all about me ruining this puppet, I think. There we go. I want to saturate this jersey mesh with glue, and then once it's kind of set up, I'm going to run a stitch all the way around it, as much as I can, and then I'll remove the pins at that point, and ruin these pins. But that's okay. How do you hand stitch? Well, that's what I'm going to see. I think I've done it. That's one of the reasons why I changed the changed the lower jaw to reticulated foam yesterday, because I didn't want to have to deal with having to sew through it. I think I was able to do it on the capybara, because I had a little bit of a problem with that on there. And I ordinarily would put a boning ring at the base of the head, but I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to do that because the head's so narrow there. I think it would impair the movement. All right, get that out of there.
So the camping trip was fun. We had a good time. I went with my buddy and his 2 kids, and we fought squirrels and had to deal with a locksmith to get the keys out of the car. And better than that, it was fairly uneventful. I was thinking we were going to cut a strip off the back of the head at the bottom and add a strip of Scott foam where it's. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. If this one doesn't work, maybe I'll do that. I may have even said I was going to do that at one point. I don't know. This whole project's been by the seat of my pants. How many times did I prototype out that head? Okay, I'm gonna secure what I can right now. Come on. That glue might be a little too wet to be doing this right now. It's starting to set up though. I can feel it. It's really hot today. The biggest thing is to let it fold over on itself. I was going to cut it there, but I think I have enough thread to get most of the way around again. Your process is great. Did you make a new neck sleeve jersey mesh off camera? Yeah. So I started. I was trying to. I was trying to do it all off camera, just because. I mean, how boring is it to watch me sew? But as it turned out, I had to restitch it just at the beginning of this one. So I show kind of how I do it. It's exactly the same as the one I usually do, except for instead of 3 inches here, it's 6 to give it a little bit more room to. And I also use a little bit stretchier. I have a couple different types of jersey mesh, and this one's a little stretchier of the two. I thought I needed it to to span that gap. I think you bought the pattern. If you bought I think you did. It's that same one I have on the website, but instead of using 3 inches, I use 6 inches of it. I think what I can do with this L200 is, because it's only half-inch L200, I think I can go all the way through it and kind of make almost like how I did with the leather. I had a bunch of holes that I had drilled, but I think I can just go through it with the needle and attach it that way. That's my theory, at least for the next couple of stitches. Did you catch Swazzle's 4+ hour live where they created features for the puppet they built on a previous? I didn't, but I planned on watching it. I actually spent a good chunk of the day watching Adam Savage's video on making the animatronic Grogu. Well, was it like vacuum forming and stuff like that, or I don't know? I'll just watch it. I don't really make whatchamacallit, replacement features. I kind of do them custom for each puppet. I do have a box though. Here, let me shut that window. I have a box of old crank anchor eyes. I may have shown you this before. But these are old crank anchor eyes they used to use for the same process, where they would have these replacement eyes. And what I do is, BJ gave me these in the shop, and I find a shape that I like, and I peel everything off and make a new vacuum form buck off of them. So I have a bunch of different eyes. What's funny is this side are all the stoner squinty, bruised, dead, blue, these crazy eyes. So you have things with like bloodshot eyes and stuff. But actually, the capybara eyes were just some old crankier eyes I had. They even had the lids. But I have this one. So I've been dying to do something with this giant one, and I have no idea why they have this I don't know, sheet material on there. But I think I only have one of them. Anyway, excuse me. Okay, here's moment of truth. Let's see what I can do with this. Nope, that didn't work. Okay. It may just have to be glued. I got one. I mean, the gluing's doing the lion's share of the work on it. This is just kind of a secondary thing. And I probably should tie it off with each one. See, I would have had to do this on the lower lip too. Doesn't appeal to me at all. Let's get all these pins out of here. Come on. Oh, there's still a pin here. Let's see if I can streamline this a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I think their videos have gotten pretty good lately. Boy, this is riveting video right here. Home stretch, though. What I find interesting about watching other people's videos is how similar some people's processes are to what I do and how different they are. And, you know, sometimes it makes me rethink the way I do things, or sometimes I just say, you idiots, what are you doing? See, it says I usually put vids on double speed and watch it in fast mode. I skip over parts to cut through it quickly, but get the main parts. Yeah. I don't really do too much to the speed, but a lot of times I'll be doing something else and I'll just be listening. And if it sounds like something interesting, I'll back it up and watch that part again. Well, I got around there. I don't know how secure it's going to be. Ah, come on. Okay, so when I do the other one, I will not be attaching it at the back here. In fact, I may open up this seam on the other one before I put the skin on, and then I'll glue it up prior to closing it up. But I got to be able to feed the eyes through. All right, so. Come on. All right, there he is. Starting to look more like himself. Ooh, I've got to get that. Not that I forgot it, but I forgot it. I'll have to figure out where the antenna are going to go and just push them up through after it's all put together. That shouldn't be too difficult. It's just basically a big fork of rod that goes up through the skull and pokes out the top. Okay, so I'm gonna. one's okay. That one's okay. That one's ruined. That one's ruined. That one's ruined. Ruined. Well, yeah, that's ruined. 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 Okay, so I ruined about eight pins in that process, which is okay. Every once in a while, I stumble on a real gem that makes the time spent on the watch worth the whole effort. Hey, I was talking to a friend of mine today about maybe doing an online course just about making mouth palettes. I'd make like about 3 or 4 different types of mouth palettes, and people can follow along with. I give a list of materials, and we can just go through all the different types of grips and the way they work and the way you put them together and when you use one or another. Is that something people would be interested in? It'd probably be a pay one, but I'd keep it cheap. Okay. So now, get rid of that. Oh, I started getting some supplies today. I'm a little disappointed. With what I got. So that's the mouth palettes I usually use, the Ultra Suede. I bought some online that was super cheap. It was $19.95 for a yard of Ultra Suede. Usually it's like $100. And this is the color. And me, even being colorblind, can tell that's a different red. So, wait, is that the outside or the inside? That is the, well, it looks like it's two-sided. Ugh, it's like an orange. I'm going to try to, I'm going to do some samples. I don't think I can do it, but I'm going to try using Rit dye more and see if I can dye it a darker red. I also have some spray dye that maybe I can use on this, but it's going to be a project. Or I may just do a bunch of puppets with some orange mouths, because I got a yard of it. But, oh well. I got plenty to test on at least. But it was the only color they had. They had 7 yards of it. I almost ordered 2 yards of it, but luckily I didn't. Like I said, though, I go through. I bought Ultra Suede in 2012, and I just finished it up today, or yeah, on these 2 puppets. Okay. All right. And that color is called Salsa, which is, I guess that's what that color is. Okay, let me get a stand. I had a stand. Where did I do with it? Oh, it's right here. They shared a technique for attaching wispy hairs similar to what BJ showed in his finishing techniques course. I've never seen that course, but they added a tip on securing the hairs using fray check and how they do it. Oh, okay. I'll check it. I haven't had much success with fray check, so I may need to even learn how to use that. Okay. Oh, I need to shut his mouth. That's what I was going to do. Okay. Shut your mouth. Let's talk about Ralph Zinobop. Okay. Okay. We're going to go get some fleece. Let's see what I got here. Might be enough. So I'm going to try something with this when I do his head. I'm going to do those cones of fur, but I'm also going to embed an ostrich plume in each one so that it comes out the tip. I think that's what I'm going to try and do. I'll do some experiments first, but that's my plan. This may not be enough, but we'll see. This is just that scrap, or not scrap, but polar fleece, I guess, that I got at Joann's when they're going out of business. I'm going to do the same process I always do. Let's see, is this better? Oh, that's a great shot. Probably that one. So what I do is, again, I do the stretch going the same as the flat part of the mouth. And I just start pinning it to the center line. I should put the dart behind the eyes here. Sorry, let me get a view that I can see and you guys can see. There we go. Yeah, I may get a little bit more fabric. Let's see. It's really hard to know what people will want. I would think any in-depth course on a specific part of a puppet building would be popular, but it's hard to predict. You could take any component like noses, teeth, eyes, mouth plates, etc. Go in-depth on it, whether it takes off or not, is roll of the dice. Yeah, I would think though that a good, reliable mouth plate was one of the biggest things that BJ taught me. And then I also learned it from a couple other people, different ways to do it. So, and even BJ, different puppets need different types of mouth plates. It's a, you never know what you're going to need to do. Okay, so I'm just basically working my way around the center line, trying to get all the darts towards the front of his head. Let me see where those eyes are. Okay, so there's the nose. I think it's going to be about like that. So I'm going to try and put the dart right here. You basically just work your, I may have to have another dart in the back, but that's not the end of the world. You just keep kind of massaging it into place. And I mean, if you watch enough of my videos, you don't have to take my different classes, but I'm banking on people watching all my videos, or banking on people not watching all my videos, I guess. Okay, so that's one side. It's like Bart Simpson. And you want to make sure the stretch is going this way, because if you do end up having a really tight neck, you want the stretch to be able to give a little bit so you can get the hand in and out fairly easily. Also, I probably should take that that thing out of the mouth, the binder clip, so that I could pattern it with its mouth open. But... Right, there we go. Is this one gonna be big enough? I think this one's bigger. I'm just babbling to myself. Okay, so stretch is going that way. Okay, so I'm going to start along the center line, transferring the pins from the foam to the other piece of fabric. So the foam's kind of sandwiched between the fabric, the foam is sandwiched between the fabric. What's nice is both their heads should have the same pattern. It's just Ralph will have more holes in it than his will. I want it to be tight but not stretched if I can help it. So it's always good to test to make sure you can still get your hand inside there after you got it all. If you can keep the pins out of your fingers, it's a good idea. Try and test it out while this is on there to make sure everything still moves. That one's deed. I'm going to have to glue it. I'm going to have to glue it around here on there. Otherwise, I'm going to lose. It's going to tent over that part. So we'll see. Hello, Chase. I'm going to open that mouth. I'm going to try and pin this in. Try and get it. You know any good puppet movies? Team America. How about you, Dave? Do you know any good puppet movies? There's some other ones I like to watch. Trying to think. Um, I'm not sure. A lot of people like Meet the Feebles. I'm not a big fan of that one, but he's got kind of a weird jowl going on here. But I'm gonna bring that down. May need a dart in the back of his head. Oh, the Muppets Mayhem is good. He what he asked was know any good Muppet movie, any puppet movie, good puppet movies besides the Muppets. I'm trying to think. What else is there? I'm thinking I'm going to need a dart in the back of his head. So what's happening here is I'm getting a little bit of extra fabric I don't want, so I'm going to put a little dart here, and hopefully that'll take care of it. Try and get them lined up on the side, same side, more or less. It'll be under his hair, so nobody will ever see it. Let me see if I can get my hand up in there. Okay, I think that's basically pattern now. You kind of see it. He's like Pinhead. You can see how good that looks? Kind of. Can almost open his mouth. Okay, I'm going to mark it up. I don't like that line there. Let me see if I can fix it. You know, maybe I can't put a dart there. I can futz with this for quite a while to try and get it just right. I don't want to go too fast, because if I go too fast, then it kind of defeats the purpose of even doing it. But I think Gremlins is a great puppet movie. I think certainly Gremlins 2. Well, you know, Gremlins 2. There's some stuff that they do in Chucky that always makes me that I like. You know, the original Child's Play did some pretty cool stuff. Short Circuit's a pretty good puppet movie. I mean, I might be getting a little too loose on what I'm calling a puppet movie. I don't like Meet the Feebles, but some of the other puppets are amazing, especially the rabbit, whoever made. Oh, you know what's really good to watch? What I enjoyed a lot was Greg the Bunny, the TV series that was on Fox. I like that one quite a bit. If you can find that. I think most of the episodes are online. Yeah, this part here is going to be problematic. This little, it's going to have to be glued before it looks halfway decent. Maybe I'll put that on my hand correctly. Ow! Okay. I just stuck myself. Where is that? I'm still kind of working on the animated melon pool thing. I ended up getting quite a bit of puppet work, and I kind of got derailed. And then when I went back to it, I couldn't remember how I was doing it. It'll come out eventually. I keep telling myself. All right, I got this thing more or less put together. Okay, I'm gonna mark it up. Oh, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, Guy, if you do stop motion too, there's another whole genre. I try to hide my darts where I can, under hair or under features, which is how I figured out these. Yeah, I should start working on that animated thing. Enough people are asking about it. Kiss of Death is for me to start sharing it before I finish something. Okay, now I got to go around and mark my registration marks. How did you prep for the Melonpool movie? Like, how much puppets did you make, and how did you make do with the budget? Okay, so that Melonpool movie, what that I have online, is the one that I made in college. It was the first one I had ever done, the first puppet movie, first puppets I'd ever done. And we're going to make another film. We're going to make a Charlie Chaplin film, and the bully and the girl both dropped out when we had 2/3 of the movie finished. And I was doing Chaplin, and then I had two other, the two other characters dropped out. And so I basically was scrambling for an idea. My buddy Eric, who's the one I went camping with, said, "Is there any other movie you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'd love to do animated Melonpool, but I'm never going to be able to do that. Let's do it with puppets, because that'll be cheaper and easier." I already had the Star Trek set in my parents' garage because I used to make Star Trek movies when I was in high school. So I had that. The puppets were made. I made one of each character with my grandmother in about 3 weeks. We built all four of the puppets, as well as made all the modifications to the Star Trek set to make it look a little less like the Star Trek set. The city where they land, the hillbilly town, was actually the location we had gotten permission to film the Charlie Chaplin video in. And so we just used that as the hillbilly town. And I think we shot the entire thing in 9 days, and we completed editing it 3 days before it was due for my class. And Eric stayed up all night and did all the music for it in 24 hours. So, in fact, we got stuck in traffic and were late to the screening. And that's because we were finishing the movie. I had the script more or less from the comic book that I had written. And I think the script was 17 pages long. And when we timed it out, it was 9 minutes long. And so in the class, we had a max of 10. But I think we were reading a little fast because the movie came in at like 19 minutes. So that's basically the long answer. I think I enjoy the process of doing these things more than actually finishing a lot of them. Boy, I sure do use a lot of pins. Okay. So there's one side of his head. There's the other side of his head. I missed the same spot in both of them. Okay, I'm gonna cut these guys out. Oh, the Kickstarter one. Okay, so with that one, the way that one worked was, I was driving home from work. I was stuck in traffic one day, driving from home, and I had already rebuilt a lot of the puppets. Over the years, I had rebuilt the puppets for different conventions. We had decent puppets for all the characters at that point, and so I was driving home one day, and I was stuck in traffic, and I was thinking, what would make a good Melonpool movie? And my thought was that I would love to redo Star Trek: The Motion Picture, but give it a better ending and make it about Melonpool. Make jokes out of everything to make it a Melonpool movie. And so I wrote a 45-page script, and showed it to a friend of mine, John Stout, who was kind of looking for a project to direct. And we started talking and trying to make that story work. And it ended up ballooning into like 118-page script. But at that point, we had a feature and was like, oh, this is great. Meanwhile, we still hadn't put any money. I hadn't asked for any money. I was just kind of doing it on my own. I was working at DirecTV. I would get my bonus and I could spend that money. It was just basically like found money. And so I put about, I guess, $5,000 into making the set. I actually started building it at my garage. And I was building the set, and then I met BJ, and he said, oh, you should bring the set into the shop. I have plenty of space here. You can do it here. And so at that point, we started talking about doing a Kickstarter because we had the script, we had the set about 2/3 done. It wasn't painted yet, but it was all kind of put together. And we decided to do the Kickstarter, and it just one bit of bad luck after another. We made $5,000. We wanted to make money. Only thing we wanted money for was to buy decent lights and decent camera and microphones. I think that was what we kind of wanted to do. And we budgeted $5,000 for that. And we made it. And then what happened was we lost the shop, and we had to put the set into storage. And when we got the set out of storage and the puppets out of storage, we were setting up the new shop. Somebody broke in and stole the puppets, stole Ralph and Sam. And then when we put the set back together, parts of it were broken. And then we started rebuilding that. And then we lost that shop. And basically, between trying to store it and repair it and remake the puppets that we now had to use that money for, we ran out of money. And at a certain point, it was either put money into into storage to store that set, or we just dumpster it. We dumpstered the set, and then I have felt guilty about that Kickstarter ever since. That's basically the story of the Kickstarter. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to be able to not, and maybe I still don't feel 100% great about it, but I mean, I've actually worked for real productions that, spend millions of dollars only to get canceled and never be filmed. I worked on something called Ping Pong Rabbit that basically happened with, and it happens. I feel bad about it, but I could either regroup and do something else, or do nothing. But yeah, I want to finish that animation, if anything, just to have something to give to the people who believed in that project enough to put money into it. But a lot of them, they just want a puppet movie. They don't care about Melonpool. I don't think I have enough space on this. Yeah, I guess I think that works. But I don't think I'll ever do another Kickstarter because I feel so bad about that. And it's so easy for projects to fall away. I had a lot of bad luck there for a while too, though. I mean, I broke up with well, I'll say my wife, but I broke up, and there was that. Dog got hit by a car and killed, and what else happened during that time? And we lost the shop. So between all those things, it just made it really difficult to stay too motivated on it. And I lost my job. I lost my job at DirecTV. Thanks for bringing that up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Chase. If you were randomly were given $10,000 today, and the only catch is that you have to make the Melonpool movie again, would you still make the movie? Sorry, but no, I'm just kidding you about that. I don't think 10,000 would be enough to do it. I am a little bit more realistic about how much these things cost. Number one, I was gonna have my old friends. I was insistent that we use the same actors that I used on the original Melonpool movie, and they all were coming back. Although some were more interested in doing it than others. And it's harder when you're like when I was in college. It was easy to have people have spare time. It becomes really hard to find the spare time and do stuff for free when you're have families and are working and all this other stuff, all that jazz. But I think if I were to do anything with, $10,000, I could definitely finish that animated thing. But then again, there's only like 2 minutes of it left. But the reality of the things is $10,000 will pay 3 months rent for me. So that's how much money gets you these days. Okay, now try and line these things up to some extent. What I think I always find fascinating about this whole process is how the same and different these two sides look. And when I true it up, and put it back together like how it still fits. Eventually, I think once I, I think I'm going to start drawing Melonful comics on Saturdays on this feed. I don't know when I'll post them, but I think I had a lot of fun drawing that one time when I did it. Maybe I'll do another 24-hour comic, but just break it up into weeks and weeks. There's really no reason I'm building this puppet. Eric was wondering why I actually am working on it. I kind of feel like I need the closure, and I like having the puppets around, puppet versions of them. Chase, I keep trying to make up stories, characters. Is there anything to help you come up with new ideas for Melonful or the characters for Cryptozoa and Alien, Alan, I guess is what it was called. A lot of times I tell you, when I was doing Melonful, the way I would do a lot of ideas was I would read the Calvin and Hobbes books, and then think about what would the repercussions of, say, time travel be, or a duplicator machine. Those storylines. They were all fantasy, so it was like, oh, well, what if this actually happened? What would it do to the characters? That was where a lot of that stuff, or something that, believe it or not, something that happened in real life would inform it. Like, I was a big Star Trek fan, so that would inform. I was a big Back to the Future fan. That would inform that. That was a lot of it. Melonpool wasn't the most original strip as far as storylines, but I did my best to put my own mark on it. I think, like, you come up with a character, and then you figure out how they relate to the world, and each character has their own point of view, and it's really always about how they react. That was what was so nice about Ralph and Ralphie, is they were the same person, but 180 degrees different in different attitude. So I could do the same storyline with both of them and have completely different results because of the way they reacted to things. I do a gag about, if I could put in if Mayberry was in a strip, I knew I could be good for a TV reference. If I had, Sam in the strip, I know I could rely on, people not listening to him or him being a dog. Okay, I think that's my pattern. Oh, today's the 2nd. Okay. I should probably make a dummy head just to make sure this thing fits. In fact, I'm going to do that. Get some fabric. Oh, you know what else I did today? I dyed fleece. So this is going to be his skin. I dyed this today. It's pretty good. You know, it's basically the same color that I use for everything. You know, all the Caucasian characters. I think Dave, you were the one who found the pattern that I use, or the formula that I use. It's the one that you recommended when I was doing strange pork. Just a second, I promise I'll be back. So, as you all know, I hand sew all these usually, but I'm gonna machine sew this because it's just a test. I do like this color of this apricot color or whatever this is. Okay. Yeah, for strange pork. Yeah, I actually followed it exactly this time, and I got that color, which I think was pretty good. Usually, I futz with it a little bit. Don't use the right amount of water or a little bit too much dye. I have the sinking suspicion that I may have been using a tablespoon instead of a teaspoon for part of the color, which might have screwed it up in other projects. Yeah, I have the least favorite project I have. The comic that I've done is the processed cheese slices comic, which everybody loves. And I was just trying to come up with one more gag, and I spent maybe 10 minutes on it. And people love that strip, and I cannot stand it. Oh, Another strip that I don't like. I'm not a big fan of like, Drabble or really legacy strips, like ones that are now written by their grandson of the original artist. I like Blondie, but those ones that just go on and on and on, or from a different time, and is a spot that I could have had. Those are the ones I don't really like too much. Oh, what did I forget? I forgot to do my notches. Actually, I went to all the trouble putting those notches in, and I don't really need them for this one. I need them when I hand sew, but I don't really need them now. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting it where I know I'm not going to need any seam allowance. So the mouth and the mouth and the neck. And actually, I should probably mark where that starts. And then what I do, so that I can mark all those darts. Where's the? I then line up the mouth and the neck best I can. I can trace it again, or I can at least. I'm going to trace the darts. That's all I'm going to trace. And I just do this on the machine sewing ones, but you couldn't see any of that. I'll show you what I did. I lined up the mouth. Lined up the mouth, and then I just marked where the darts were. then I'm gonna. The strip that made me fall in love with Melonpool was a strip where Ralph and Melonpool were talking about how all the Earth citizens love bands. Oh my gosh! Yeah, the bands named after bugs, and they scan Sam for fleas. Yeah. That actually was a great one because I met George Harrison's sister, who read that strip just randomly and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great! I got to show this to my brother." Because he was still alive at the time. That was really great. And I said, "Oh, I was worried that maybe they would be mad." And she said, "Oh, the only thing they'd be mad about or the only thing they get mad about is when people steal money from them." Hi, Tilly. I might still have that strip. I can tell you here. I'm actually gonna have to. I'm not gonna be able to sew this on camera. I gotta walk Tilly in a second, but if I have it, it's right here. In a second, I gotta get a step stool. All right, that was early on in Melonpool. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I saw that one. Uh, 35 plus. If we do 35 plus postage, yeah, definitely. I could get rid of that one for that. Sometimes I used to put notes on the back. I wanted to see. I can tell you what day that ran. That ran in May 11th, 1996. Yeah, I'll have it right here if you want to do that one. All right. Well, see, that's what I always call my semi-photographic memory, that I can kind of remember where things are like that. I remembered when I did the strip was early on, and I remembered that what box it was in of the 4 boxes of those that I have. So anyway, I got to get going. Otherwise, my dog's going to pee on the carpet. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to take 4th of July off, but I will should be every other day this week. All right. Talk to you later.